August 1946. Esteemed U.S. naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, one of the first pilots to fly over both the North and South Poles, organizes Operation High Jump, the largest expedition ever to travel to Antarctica. With 13 ships, 23 aircraft, and over 4,700 military personnel.
This was very important that after the conclusion of World War II, Admiral Byrd was asked if he would mount a large armada and go for 4 months. It was supposed to be that they would go in December, January, February, and March, and there was a list of military goals that they were to achieve. But by the end of February, something happened.
One of the mission's official goals was investigating sites for potential military bases in Antarctica. But during his explorations, Admiral Byrd allegedly came upon something highly unexpected.
This story is said to come from his diaries, not his published account of the trip, but something he held back and then later was suppressed by government authorities that found it frightening.
In his diary, which was discovered by his son after his death, Admiral Byrd tells an extraordinary story.
Admiral Byrd heard there was an entrance to the center of the Earth through the South Pole. And he took planes into the South, under the South Pole. And when he did that, he discovered that as he flew over the pole, suddenly he's looking at things that shouldn't be there. I mean, it was temperate. His squadron flew under the Earth, into the Earth.
It turns into this lush and green area, and he can't even believe his eyes. But that's just the beginning of his extraordinary story. He tells how all of a sudden he starts to see a shimmering rainbow city that's made of crystal. His airplane is taken control of when he suddenly sees these flying disc-shaped objects around them that lead him to the ground. Whereupon he's escorted into a cavernous type of an area where he meets a being he refers to as the Master in his diary. The Master tells him that they're highly disappointed in what humans are doing with nuclear weapons and how they've recently destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they really are concerned about what is going on the surface of the planet. They tell Admiral Byrd that they hope that humanity will ultimately stop this.
For UFO researchers, this account from Admiral Byrd's diary is particularly significant due to the fact that the modern UFO era began right after World War II and the detonation of the first atomic bombs. It has also been noted that a high number of UFO sightings have been reported in the vicinity of nuclear missile silos.
Admiral Byrd's story is congruent with the stories that we hear from numerous accounts of angelic or extraterrestrial type beings that are very concerned about what humanity is doing with nuclear weapons. Just ask the Air Force officers at the U.S. missile silos, the nuclear missile silos, that have seen their silos and their nuclear arms disarmed by what are perceived to be extraterrestrial beings. They're very concerned that we are ultimately not just going to destroy ourselves, but could harm our planet, which is their world as well.
If Admiral Byrd's secret diary is authentic, does it reveal not only that there are highly advanced beings living inside the Earth, but also that they are monitoring what happens on the surface? According to the diary, after this incredible encounter, Admiral Byrd was eager to share his story, but was ordered to remain silent.
Byrd comes back after this experience. He is taken to a government compound where he is told that he is never to speak of this publicly and that everything he says is classified.
Could Admiral Byrd's story point to a profound connection between the ancient traditions of strange beings living inside the Earth and the modern-day UFO phenomenon? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and believe we may be fast approaching the time when we will find ourselves face to face with the beings of inner Earth. Yucca Flat, Nevada, May 19, 1953. At 5:05 a.m., one of a series of nuclear tests under the umbrella codenamed Upshot Knothole is set off. Within seconds of the blast, a disc-shaped object is seen rapidly descending from the sky, headed south toward Las Vegas, then disappearing into the mountains. Just 2 days after this event, government officials secretly gathered a team of scientists for a curious assignment. They were to investigate the crash of an unidentified flying object on the outskirts of Kingman, Arizona, a city 175 miles south of the nuclear test site.
There were 40 engineers that boarded a bus, and they took a long 3.5-hour ride from Phoenix to Kingman. When they got there, it was nighttime. There were MPs on all corners of the craft. It's about a 40-foot diameter disc-shaped craft that was perfectly intact. There wasn't a scratch on it. There were 4 beings associated with this craft, and they shipped it to Groom Lake.
Groom Lake is the Area 51 region in Nevada. When Area 51 was just bare bones, they took the craft and the aliens out to that location in the middle of the Nevada desert because it was so remote. And around that, they built Area 51.
Hidden within a ring of mountains deep in the Nevada desert, Area 51 is a top-secret military installation that has long been rumored to hold evidence of alien technology. And there are even stories that a special facility at Area 51 once held a survivor of the 1953 Kingman UFO crash, an alien entity known as J-Rod.
J-Rod is an alien who allegedly worked at Area 51 over a period of years, and it was J-Rod's mission or duty to help reverse engineer technology that was apparently from the 1953 Kingman UFO crash. J-Rod was one of the crash survivors and worked directly with our own government.
Captain Bill Uhouse, a former Navy pilot who later worked for the U.S. Air Force performing experimental testing on aircraft, was assigned to Area 51 in the mid-1960s. And he claims that he not only studied the craft that allegedly crashed in Kingman, Arizona, but also had direct contact with J-Rod.
We had a long period of introduction into meeting, you know, an alien. And I called him J-Rod. That's the name that the linguist gave him. And he would talk, but he'd sound just like, if you spoke, he'd sound like you. You know, he's like one of these, you know, a parrot, you know, but he'd try and answer your question, you know. Basically, it was only engineering advice or science advice.
There's also another whistleblower by the name of Dan Burish. And Dan Burish said that he was hired as a microbiologist to basically care for J-Rod, ensuring that he remained healthy. And this went on for years and years and years.
According to Dan Burish and Bill Uhouse, J-Rod was housed in a special underground chamber at Area 51. And there have been numerous other accounts of extraterrestrials working with the United States government.
There's a lot of stories that we've worked with the aliens at Area 51, or some say at a base nearby, kind of in the desert out there. And we've been working with them in underground labs, and they have been sharing information for us to enhance our technologies.
Is it possible that the United States government has met with and worked with entities like J-Rod and other alien visitors since at least the 1950s. According to UFO researchers, there is evidence that extraterrestrials have not only been held at secret military bases, but have even met face-to-face with the commander-in-chief inside the walls of the Pentagon. One of the most detailed accounts of a presidential close encounter is the story of an otherworldly visitor named Valiant Thor.
The story of Valiant Thor comes from a gentleman by the name of Frank Stranges, who's a chaplain and apparently held a top secret clearance. As the story goes, in 1957, a UFO landed in Virginia, very close to Washington, D.C. Police officers were called to the scene, and out stepped a human-looking gentleman who wanted to visit with then President Eisenhower. He was taken directly to the Pentagon and was able to arrange a meeting with President Eisenhower. In this meeting, he basically stated that he was very much concerned about our use of nuclear weapons.
Just as another country would post an ambassador to the United States, the theory was that Valiant Thor was the ambassador from the extraterrestrials, and he was, from time to time, advising President Eisenhower and the US government on policy issues.
This idea that an actual physical extraterrestrial visitor could potentially be influencing the course of the world is a possibility. I am sure there's envoys out there that do the same thing, not just on a planet, but in entire planetary systems.
Burbank, California. June 1943. In the midst of World War II, the government presses the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation to develop the next generation of military planes. Jet fighters designed to outflank propeller aircraft and help turn the tide of war. A team headed by Lockheed engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson delivers the first production model in just 143 days. Their P-80 Shooting Star initiates the jet age for the U.S. military. Kelly Johnson's secret research and development team ultimately becomes known as Skunk Works.
Clarence Kelly Johnson was the first head of Lockheed's Skunk Works division back in the 50s and 60s, up until 1975. He's the developer of the U-2 spy plane, which was able to fly at the incredible altitude of 80,000 feet, equipped with photographic capabilities that were astonishing. And he is a great legend in the aviation community, for sure.
Despite his mainstream credentials, Johnson becomes the primary witness to a now famous UFO sighting in Agoura, California, on December 16, 1953. His report of the encounter and his personal sketches of the craft were preserved by Project Blue Book, the U.S. government's official account of the UFO phenomenon at the time.
He was with some of his colleagues at the time when he saw a very, very unusual object that he could not explain in any kind of technology that was familiar to him at the time.
During an era of official skepticism about UFOs, Johnson risks his career by reporting the sighting to his superiors. But instead of being penalized or demoted, Johnson is seemingly rewarded 2 years later when he plays a pivotal role in founding America's most secret military base, Area 51.
Kelly Johnson was the person that identified the location where Area 51 is as a good strategic location. It is fundamentally located in the right part of the world without prying eyes.
But was Area 51 founded merely to test experimental aircraft, as the military insists? Or did Kelly Johnson choose the location as the best place to reverse engineer the very alien spacecraft he believed he saw with his own eyes. Rachel, Nevada, March 17, 2018. Just outside the perimeter of Area 51, Georgios Tsoukalos meets with researcher Wolf McCarran and mining expert Christian Greneau. They are here to investigate rumors of an alleged tunnel network that lies beneath Area 51.
This is amazing, isn't it?
Wolf and Christian believe this location, the Tempute Mine, is one of several old Nevada mines that have been used to expand operations at Area 51, deep underground.
I'm a miner about 100 miles north of Area 51 here, and I've been mining there since 1992. I also own a mine in Goldfield, so I'm just an avid miner, you know. I search these out.
So what can you tell us about Area 51?
Well, Area 51, what you see like on Google imagery, that was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Since then, they've gone down. Everything they do is underground.
And what evidence have you come across as a miner that would corroborate your idea?
People are questioning, well, if they're going down, where is all the dirt going? Well, it's going to these nearby mines. And they're putting it in huge mountains and they're heap leaching it. By the time they're done heap leaching a huge mountain, it goes down to nothing.
Now, to the uninitiated, what does heap leaching mean?
It is they pile the ore up into a large mountain, hundreds of feet high, and they run hoses all the way through it, like every 2 feet, and they leach in mercury and cyanide. And what that does, it'll take boulders this large and actually just bring them down to nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Is the government using heap leaching inside the Tempute Mine in order to hide the massive amounts of dirt being removed in the course of their digging operations? But if so, how is the government able to conduct such an enormous operation without arousing the suspicion of the local miners?
These mines around here have the gold, silver, lead, so any mine would be more than happy to accept the ore. And it's kind of like hush-up money. I've witnessed this hush-up and dealt with this a lot.
Hush-up of what?
Hush-up of the base, for the tunnels of Area 51.
Okay. It's sort of self-explanatory that the reason why people would go underground is if there are experiments going on, that there's no interference or less interference.
Exactly, yeah.
Has the U.S. military been expanding its operations at Area 51, not outward, but downward, in order to keep its top-secret work even more secret than before?
It is my own belief, based on a lot of good research, that there is most likely a large, I would even say vast, web of interconnected underground bases and tunnels that exist. They originally started doing it, by the way, just to protect against an atomic strike that could have happened from the Soviet Union, and you need secure underground facilities. Well, they took that and just ran with it.
There are those that believe that the underground operations being conducted at Area 51 are only the tip of an enormous iceberg. Is it just one of many secret government facilities, each connected to each other by a vast network of underground high-speed trains?
And underground train system is said to be centered around Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs. This is a mountain that has been hollowed out by the U.S. military. It's the NORAD Central Command. And they go from Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs to Dulce, New Mexico, which is said to have an extraterrestrial underground base. Then it goes to Los Alamos in New Mexico, then to Albuquerque and to Roswell, and to Area 51 in Nevada. All of these military bases are essentially connected by a secret underground subway system.
Beale Air Force Base, 1967. U.S. Air Force Captain David Freehoff joins an elite group of pilots flying America's most sophisticated spy plane, the SR-71.
I was an SR-71 pilot for 4.5 years. The aircraft, as far as performance went, it was an hour from coast to coast. It would warp your mind with that kind of performance. And you just felt so proud that you had an opportunity to fly that airplane and to be a part of that unit and those people. It was family.
No one is surprised when the military assigns such an elite pilot to duties at America's most top-secret Air Force base.
I worked at Area 51 for 6 years, from 1979 till 1985. You had to have a special clearance, a top-secret SBI, Special Background Investigation. Fortunately, I had gotten that while I was flying the SR, so it was an easy transition for me to move from the SR-71 and my clearances and all over into Area 51.
Along with his colleagues, Freehoff commuted each day from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas to Area 51 using a mysterious government carrier named Janet Airlines.
One of the great stories about Area 51 comes from engineer T.D. Barnes. Here's what he said. If there are UFOs being reverse engineered at this base, I wouldn't know about it because you flew out in an airline, Janet Airlines, and the windows were blacked out, so you didn't know where you were going.
Freehoff noticed that on his daily commutes, a select group of scientists and military personnel also boarded the Janet 737 in Las Vegas. When the plane landed at Area 51, this group boarded a bus and headed to an even more secretive facility codenamed Site 4, or S4.
When I was there, we knew about S4, but we didn't know what they did. All we knew is there were certain people that got on the 737 in the morning, and we got to Area 51, they would take and go off in a different direction in a bus, and then we went on to the north, going up towards the hangars.
Freehoff never knew exactly what was going on at Site 4 during his time at Area 51. But when he heard Bob Lazar's story years later, he found that Lazar's description of flying to Area 51 on a Janet 737 and traveling to S4 rang true in every detail.
When I heard Bob Lazar describe getting on the 737 and fly to Area 51 and get off and go through the terminal and go to S4, and everything he talked about and the way he put it, he sounded totally believable to me.
Critics contend that no actual eyewitnesses have ever come forward to confirm that Lazar worked at Area 51, much less at Site 4. But Freehoff claims otherwise.
I know people that had worked for me that after I left there, they had seen Bob Lazar there, and they admitted that to me recently. I know that his critics piled on because obviously they did not want the word to come out that there were in fact UFOs in our possession, and that he was revealing a capability to perhaps our enemies that we in fact were alien technologies.
Scientists agree that the best chances of finding alien life will be on planets similar to ours. And descriptions of extraterrestrials seem to resemble humans in many ways. Some ancient astronaut theorists draw a surprising conclusion from these facts, suggesting that aliens might actually be human.
It is odd that many of the descriptions of aliens are effectively humanoid, and this raises an interesting possibility. One idea that's been put forward is that these are not extraterrestrials at all, but they're time travelers from the future.
They could be us from 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years from now. Let's assume for a moment that 10,000 years from now on this planet, if we all survive, that time travel was created. They've invented it. Just like the time machine of H.G. Wells' days. They can go back or they can go forward. So let's assume 10,000 years from now, we decide to come back to see us. Maybe they have changed physically. They look like the alien Greys or whoever they may be.
It could well be that ancient astronauts might not be creatures from other planets at all, but time travelers from 2720 in a time machine.
Time travel is an essential concept for science fiction. But would it be possible for flesh and blood humans to find a way to transport themselves through time with current technology? Would this enable us to cover the vast distances of space?
If I could travel close to the speed of light, I could reach the year 3000, say, in a couple of years. I have to get very close to the speed of light for that, but it's doable, and we know that this isn't a theory, this is real physics. We can demonstrate these time-warping effects. So you can reach the future quicker by traveling close to the speed of light.
The concept of time travel was first proposed by Albert Einstein in 1905, when he published his theory of special relativity.
Ancient astronaut theory says that astronauts visited us a long time ago from somewhere else. The technology involved in doing that, we would assume, would be similar to what we understand now. I mean, we know special relativity is a law of physics. It holds anywhere in the universe. Ancient astronauts would come all the way here and travel these large distances and not age that much relative to their home planet. Because if you're going close enough to the speed of light, you will have slowed down time enough that when you get back, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of years could have passed.
One limitation to this method of travel is that because a spacecraft has mass, it theoretically cannot reach the exact speed of light. The resulting reduction in velocity would then dramatically increase the amount of time needed to cross the vast universe.
Well, there's definitely many theories about how extraterrestrials got here, how their propulsion system got them to planet Earth. They're surely not coming here the way we go out into space. They'd never get here. They are finding different ways. They have either developed a new form of propulsion, or they're able to travel through what I've always believed, wormholes throughout the universe that would instantaneously put them here.
The idea of wormholes was first proposed in 1935 by Albert Einstein and his longtime collaborator, Nathan Rosen. They began to explore the possibility that space and time could literally be bent to create a time travel shortcut.
Wormholes have not been detected. They're a postulated structure in space that involve actually taking, if you want to think of a sheet of paper, bending it in half and connecting the two pieces that you get together. A wormhole is thought to do something like that. You know, space gets warped and it connects between two different parts of space. You know, there's predictions about what they would look like, there's theories about them, but we haven't detected one yet. You're not actually ever traveling faster than the speed of light, you're just cutting corners.
You don't actually have to go light speed and travel for light years to someplace. You literally go there through a wormhole and through hyperspace and bang, you're there.
If you can have a wormhole in space, then it could be turned in principle into a time machine. And so travel back in time as well as forward in time would then be possible. The problem is, where do you get your wormhole? It's not inconceivable that wormholes were made in the Big Bang, coughed out along with everything else. There might be one out there in the universe we could harvest and adapt to form a time machine.
The Mahabharata. In this sacred Indian text, written in the 8th century BC, King Ravita is described as traveling to the heavens to meet with the creator god Brahma, only to return to Earth hundreds of years in the future. Some researchers believe this Hindu tale may be one of the oldest records of successful time travel in the ancient past.
There's the story of a king called Ravayata, and he is taken into space to see the gods. And when he returns to the Earth, he finds that many ages have gone by, and it's been hundreds of years. And this is the kind of thing that would happen to space travelers and in time travel as well. You think you're gone for only a few days, but when you return to Earth, you find out that you've been gone for hundreds of years.
Like the legend of Chaco Canyon, similar tales of time travel can be found all around the ancient world. In Japan, the legend of Urashima Taro details a fisherman's visit to the protector god of the sea, Ryujin, in an underwater palace for what seemed like only 3 days.
When he returns to his fishing village, he finds that it's been 300 years that he's been gone. And his house is in ruins. Everybody he knows is long dead. No one remembers him or his family.
And in the Hebrew Bible, descriptions of the prophet Jeremiah in Jerusalem are eerily similar to both of these accounts of time travel.
Even in the Bible, the prophet Jeremiah was sitting together with a few of his friends, and there was a young boy, his name was Abimelech. And Jeremiah said to Abimelech, "Go out of Jerusalem, there is a hill, and collect some figs for us." The boy went out and collected the fresh figs. Of a sudden, Abimelech hears some noise and wind in the air, and he became unconscious. He had a blackout. After a time, he wakes up again, and he saw it was nearly the evening. So he runs back to the society, and the city was full of strange soldiers. And he said, "What's going on here? What is Jeremiah and all the others?" And an old man said, "That was 62 years ago." It's a time travel story written in the Bible.
Ever since the infamous UFO incident of 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico, there have been thousands of reports of extraterrestrial sightings and even first-hand accounts of alien abductions. Described as humanoids with large heads and small bodies, researchers believe these beings might, in fact, be an alien species that some call the Greys.
These aliens look not too dissimilar from us. They have heads, they have hands, they have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a nose, a rudimentary mouth. They certainly, in their descriptions, appear to be pretty close to us, or what they kind of look like is very, very early science fiction concepts of how the human race would eventually evolve over the eons.
If you look at the extraterrestrials that are described, the Greys that are related to the Roswell incident, you'll see that their forms in many ways resemble what we might project or predict that we could look like in the future if we became a spacefaring race.
The Roswell crash in New Mexico, in fact, happened coincidentally close to the birthday of the Egyptian goddess Isis. So you have to wonder, too, if these so-called alien bodies that were allegedly found at the Roswell crash with thin bodies and big heads, if they weren't some kind of time-traveling extraterrestrials.
Is it possible the beings believed to have been recovered at Roswell traveled here from the star Sirius, just like the Egyptian goddess Isis, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe? And might they be coming here using advanced expertise in space-time technology?
I would think that it's quite possible that the alien visitors, if they're proved to be the way we think they are, that they're using certain forms of teleportation, perhaps, or certainly they have propulsion devices that can approach the speed of light.
What we do know is that the physics of our planet, quantum physics and string theory, have moved the ball so much further than it was in the last century to saying there are no mathematical restrictions on time travel to the future or to the past. And that once you know that the physics community is saying there are no restrictions, it's just us finding out how do we do this.
Time travel is basically the same as teleportation. We could go from place to place on Earth in a matter of milliseconds. This would revolutionize all kinds of travel. At the same time, our connections between us and any other civilization, and including civilizations on other planets as well.
But just who really are these otherworldly creatures called the Greys? Is it possible they came to Earth not from outer space, but from the future or the past? Or might they actually be human time travelers?
There are various theories as to what the Greys are. There are stories that they are beings which have been around since time immemorial and are still around. But there are also encounters which people have had, and during these encounters, it has been said that really the Greys are us from the future. And that they really have traveled back in time because somehow we have genetically created a situation whereby the Greys are no longer able to procreate, then that they have to therefore come back to our times to sort of remedy the situation.
People back in the 60s and 70s kind of speculated what would human beings look like in 1,000 years or 2,000 years. And the idea was that we would expand our intellectual knowledge, so our brains would get bigger, and we'd have machinery that would basically do all the physical tasks for us that we do with our hands now. We really would become almost physically inert beings. And if you look at those early concepts of the future of the human race, they kind of look like the standard traditional gray alien, the Roswell alien.
I rather am a believer in time travel. I say nothing will be impossible for us in the future. Even if we think it's completely crazy, it will happen. Whatever humans are able to think, to calculate, even to fantasies, will one day become reality. Sometimes I ask myself if these UFOs are not time travelers. It's our own people of the future.
Considering the scientific advancements from the last century alone, might it be possible future humans have discovered the ability to travel in time, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe? Are they, in fact, the so-called visitors that have been recorded throughout the centuries? Or are they otherworldly aliens who have mastered travel through both time and space? Perhaps the answers can be found, not in the here and now, but in another place and time. Kingman, Arizona, May 1953. At the height of the Cold War, an unidentified object reportedly crashed in the desert sands. What remained was allegedly sent to America's most top-secret facility, Area 51. But it wasn't until 45 years later, in 1998, that a retired military engineer named Bill Uhouse came forward to make a stunning claim. The military didn't just have the extraterrestrial technology, they had an actual living alien.
Uhaus claimed that he worked in a secret laboratory, supposedly in the Papoose Mountains of Area 51 in Nevada, and that since 1953, the American government had an insectoid alien that was working with them. His name was J-Rod.
J-Rod supposedly assisted the military in understanding and duplicating the incredible power systems and futuristic technology that was combined and created for the Kingman craft.
Shortly after Bill Uhaus broke the story, microbiologist Dan Burish came forward to confirm his claim. But according to Dan Burish, J-Rod claimed that he was not an alien. What he revealed was something even more shocking.
This insectoid alien, J-Rod, said that he had actually come from our future, and that at some time in the near future to us, there is a catastrophe on this planet. And much of mankind is destroyed, and that mankind splits into two different species. And one of these species goes and lives underground. And while underground, they develop these insectoid traits, which is exactly what the Hopi and Zuni and even Navajo legends say, that during the transition period between the third and the fourth worlds, this above world of today was not habitable, and they had to go underground and live for some time with what they called the ant people. And you have to wonder if perhaps J-Rod is actually an insectoid human being from our own future.
Could the accounts of J-Rod confirm that the Hopi stories of ant people were more than just mythology? And if the so-called insectoids really do exist, is it possible that they are not aliens, but humans from the future?
Aliens appear to be a part of our human evolution over thousands of years. A lot of it has to do with our reproductive systems. Maybe they're actually trying to create a new race, possibly that will be able to withstand atmospheric changes here on Earth, or potentially lead us to a point where we have to leave the planet.
But if humans are someday forced underground by a cataclysmic event, does it even make scientific sense that we would evolve to have insect-like characteristics? According to some scientists, we are part insect already.
The work on the human genome has indicated that possibly up to half of our DNA may be the result of transposons. That's a fancy word for jumping genes, genes that can jump from one species to another. Recently it was shown that Rhodnius, this is the sucking insect that spreads Chagas disease, not only can spread the trypanosome, the disease-causing agent, from organism to organism, it also can spread its own genes to those organisms. Humans get Chagas disease. So far, they've not tested humans for this insect DNA. Odds are, we do have some of these insect genes in our system. We know with some of these transposons probably came from diseases we caught when our ancestors were bitten by insects.
Antarctica is a land of extremes. Nearly 98% of the ground is covered by an ice sheet up to 3 miles thick. A mountain as towering as Japan's Mount Fuji at 12,400 feet would not even break the surface. Temperatures regularly fall below minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, with winds of up to 200 miles an hour. During its peak season, it is home to only 4,000 scientists and military personnel.
Antarctica is the last frontier. It holds our imagination. Old maps that said, "Here be monsters." The last remaining territory on the planet that could have such a designation is Antarctica.
Although it was discovered nearly 250 years ago, scientists have more questions than answers when it comes to this frozen continent. Due to the sheer depth of the ice covering its landmass, the surface of Antarctica is unable to be seen with the naked eye. And ancient astronaut theorists propose that it is not just the geology that is hidden from us. They suggest there is far more human and perhaps non-human activity happening in Antarctica than we've been told.
Something seems to be going on this mysterious continent at the South Pole. And it has been theorized by a number of people that Antarctica is some kind of alien base.
Rumors of extraterrestrial activity in Antarctica have circulated for years. If these accounts are true, and there is, in fact, an extraterrestrial presence in Antarctica today, could it have been there for hundreds or even thousands of years? In July 2018, Linda Moulton Howe interviewed a whistleblower who offered to provide her with classified information regarding Antarctica on the condition that she not reveal his identity. Her source, a retired Navy SEAL who she identifies as Spartan 1, provided her with details of an ancient structure he claims to have visited during his time at the South Pole.
At that time, my rank was First Lieutenant Commander, Naval Special Operations. We were inbound the southeast coast of Antarctica. We were dispatched for, unofficially, was a research reconnaissance mission. Officially, it was to find a certain individual, obtain any information, and bring it back.
What was the date?
August 2003.
According to Spartan 1, when he and his team reached their destination, they encountered a large octagonal structure protruding from the ice. Cautiously, they proceeded to enter it.
At the very top of the first structure that we entered, there was almost 18 feet poking from the ice. The rest of it was hidden under the ice. Each door was the same, anywhere from 18 feet thick to around 30 feet thick. And even though these doors were that thick and that heavy, you could take one finger and push them and they would open. There was no resistance whatsoever. The outside temperature was at least 40 degrees below zero. Once you stepped inside these structures, the temperature was an ambient 68 to 72 degrees.
What about the ceilings, hallways, floors?
It was lighted from the inside, but we could not find the source of light. It was a lime green in color. The walls were lined with what I call hieroglyphics, but nothing of hieroglyphics that I've ever seen in my life.
Could there really be mysterious structures buried at the South Pole? Structures built by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization in our remote past.
Buried underneath the ice in Antarctica could well be stone temple constructions. There could be biological material, remains of beings that lived there and could still be there. It could be the greatest reveal in all of human history.
The Bible's book of Genesis. In chapter 6, verse 9, begins the story of Noah and the flood, in which God sends a great deluge to rid the earth of sinners and start anew. Different versions of this same story exist in nearly every ancient tradition around the world.
Going back 5,000 years, we have sacred texts that tell us there was an antediluvian civilization. There was a great flood and that there were survivors. The Mesopotamians speak of this in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Egyptians speak of this in the Edfu creation text. Plato learned from the Egyptians that there was once a civilization called Atlantis that existed 9,000 years before his time.
Plato wrote about the lost continent of Atlantis in two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, around 360 BC. Historians and researchers have long debated whether this pre-flood civilization was purely mythological or actually existed. Arguments have been made suggesting remnants of Plato's destroyed civilization could be found at the South Pole.
I think what happened in Antarctica was that approximately 13,000 years ago, that flourishing civilization that originally came from space and establishing its presence in Antarctica was flash frozen. We actually have ancient evidence of this in the form of Plato's dialogues, where he talks about the last days of Atlantis. That basically is informing us that Atlantis was an extraterrestrial colony that had established itself on Earth, and that after a pole shift, Atlantis was moved under the ice where the South Pole currently is.
Scientific anomalies, radar and satellite images, eyewitness accounts. As more and more pieces of the puzzle start to come together, might we soon be able to solve the mystery of the Antarctic continent? And if so, just what might we discover?
Modern whistleblowers still argue that there is more about Antarctica that is being covered up than we think. There are entire bases down there, entire civilizations, that the world's governments are working with aliens.
They know about the buried artifacts, they know about the ancient civilizations down there, and they know about the extraterrestrial civilizations that continue to operate in Antarctica at the very moment.
It's totally possible that Antarctica contains an extraterrestrial home base on Earth. It's a totally isolated part of the planet. It's completely uninhabited, or was until recently. It's ideal.
August 26, 1946. A U.S. scientific expedition called Operation High Jump departs for the South Pole. It is led by esteemed naval officer and explorer, Admiral Richard Byrd.
Admiral Richard Byrd was a very important admiral in the United States Navy. He graduated the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. He fought in World War I, and after the war, he became an explorer.
In 1926, Byrd made worldwide headlines when he and Navy Chief Aviation Pilot Floyd Bennett became the first people to ever fly over the North Pole. For their efforts, both men received the Congressional Medal of Honor. Later, when Byrd, at the age of 41, made the first solo flight over the South Pole, he became the youngest person ever promoted to the rank of admiral in the history of the United States Navy. In 1946, Byrd oversaw Operation High Jump, the largest Antarctic expedition to date. The massive military convoy included 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and 4,700 troops.
The U.S. Navy sent down a flotilla of ships under command of Admiral Byrd, and they came back after about 9 months in Antarctica. Apparently, they actually fought a battle in Antarctica, probably between remnants of the Third Reich and perhaps extraterrestrials as well. There were stories of craft coming up out of the water and attacking them.
Flying saucers dealt a very heavy defeat to Byrd's Operation High Jump. He gave a report in March of 1947 that said a new enemy had been discovered that could fly from pole to pole in an instant.
In 2018, more than 70 years after Byrd's astounding claim, a satellite image captured what appeared to be a condensed water trail from an aircraft, or contrail, that could only have been produced by something traveling at incredibly high speeds.
It extended the entire length of the Earth, longitudinally from the North Pole to the South Pole, which is 12,000 miles.
The maximum length of time that a contrail can maintain its shape is 30 minutes, but most dissipate in less than 15. Only a craft capable of traveling faster than 50,000 miles per hour, or 10 times the speed of the fastest aircraft in existence today, could leave a contrail that would stretch the entire length of the Earth without breaking up.
It's a seeming impossibility because it meant that some object was able to traverse the entire planet from pole to pole in a matter of minutes before the contrail disappeared.
Whatever created that was going beyond Mach 10. Mach 10 is over 78,000 miles per hour. This was probably going much, much faster than that. So whatever it was something that more than likely we've never seen before.
In the 21st century, satellite photography has allowed anyone with an internet connection to access images of Antarctica. In 2016, a striking image was discovered of a seemingly man-made entrance carved into an Antarctic mountain range.
This is a legitimate satellite image of a very large, proportionate hole in the ground, or the mountain range. This looks intelligently designed to suit a specific craft that flies through this particular opening.
Similarly, in 2018, internet researchers released the coordinates for what they describe as a UFO crash-landed on the Antarctic island of South Georgia.
The photographs are really compelling because this is not somebody making believe something is there. You can actually see the skid marks. It actually looks as though an object is moving along that ice. But the thing that so intrigued people looking at those images were that the skid marks were straight.
Some ancient astronaut theorists have noted that the shape of the alleged craft is very similar to a mysterious celestial object that was detected entering our solar system in October 2017. Called Oumuamua, the object was initially identified as an asteroid, but its shape, trajectory, and acceleration were so unexpected that the chair of Harvard's astronomy department, Avi Loeb, suggested that Oumuamua might be an alien probe.
It's a very curious image of this large, oblong, tubular-shaped craft that seems to have crashed into the ice and then skidded along. And it really looks like this interstellar asteroid, Oumuamua, that could easily be a spacecraft.
The actual craft itself is right around 50 yards in length. This is the wider view of this object that quite possibly came in at an angle, ricocheted off of the base of this mountain, and that's what gave it the momentum to skid several thousands of feet. You can definitely see the mountain. There's some disturbance here where this track leads back to from this unidentified object. This very well could be a crash landing based off of what we're seeing at the bottom of the mountain, yes.
Is it possible that online researchers using satellite technology actually located the crashed remnants of an extraterrestrial vehicle and the opening to an underground alien base?
There's been a lot of talk about underground bases in Antarctica, and certain satellite photos show mountain areas that have unusual caverns in them, literal windows that are the shape of a flying saucer.
Is it possible that secret, perhaps extraterrestrial bases are hidden beneath the ice on Antarctica?